The blizzard roared across the Rocky Mountains as Officer Daniel pulled his scarf tighter, but it was Storm, his German shepherd, who stopped first. Hackles raised, eyes burning into the white void. The dog let out a low, primal growl. Through the howl of the wind came something else, a faint cry, so fragile it could have been the mountain playing tricks. But Storm surged forward, claws tearing into the snow, dragging Daniel toward the sound. What they found would test the thin line between life and death. Two children, trapped somewhere beneath the ice, and a secret colder than the storm itself. If you believe miracles still happen in the darkest storms, comment Amen. Snow lashed across the Rockies in restless waves, a white curtain that blurred ridge from sky. The wind moaned through the pines as if the mountain itself complained of the storm's weight. Officer Daniel Hale leaned into the gale, every step a test of patience. At 36, he was tall, narrow-shouldered, the kind of wiry strong built by years in rough terrain. A scar curved along his left cheekbone, constant reminder of a rescue gone wrong. His dark hair, cut short, bristled with frost, and his blue-gray eyes carried a tired watchfulness, someone who had lost before and feared losing again. Beside him moved Storm, his German shepherd partner. 5 years old, 80 pounds, fur sable along the back, fading to a pale tan belly. Storm looked like a creature carved from the snow itself. A small scar marred his muzzle, but it only gave him more character. With strangers, he was cautious, ears sharp and stance steady. With Daniel, he was loyal shadow, every breath tuned to his handler's rhythm. "Come on, boy," Daniel muttered, tugging his scarf tighter. The storm muffled his words, yet Storm flicked an ear, as if to say, "I'm already listening." The radio on Daniel's shoulder crackled. Sarah Lund, the daytime dispatcher, spoke, her voice calm but edged with concern. She was 30, slim and tall, her black hair usually tied in a bun that surrendered to curls by afternoon. A daughter of immigrants, Sarah carried the olive skin of her grandmother and a dry wit that often kept weary rescuers smiling. "Visibility's near zero, Daniel. Copy your location." "North Rim, marker 13, he answered. "Storm's uneasy. Might be nothing, but I've learned to trust his nerves." Sarah exhaled softly, static carrying her breath. "Careful with the cornices." "They're heavy today," Daniel gave a short smile, invisible in the snow. "Always." Suddenly Storm froze, muscles locked, hackles bristling. A growl rolled from deep in his chest. His amber eyes focused on a patch of cliff where wind swept the snow in thin spirals. Daniel stopped too, heart tightening. He had seen Storm like this only when danger lay buried just out of sight. "What is it, partner?" he whispered. Storm stepped forward, nose working, then pawed at the snow near the ledge. Daniel crouched, brushing aside powder with gloved hands. There, two tiny prints, half-covered, shaped like a child's boots. They ended abruptly at the cliff's lip. Daniel's breath caught, memories stabbed. His wife's accident years ago, a winter fall that stole her life. He forced the ache down and studied the ground. The prints vanished into nothing, as if the earth had swallowed them whole. He pulled out a probe from his pack and pressed it into the snow. Beneath, he felt a hollow space, a fragile pocket where snow had arched. He pressed again, slower this time. A faint vibration shivered through the metal. Then, carried on the wind, a sound. Thin, desperate, child's sob. Daniel's stomach clenched. "Base, possible entrapment," he reported, voice steady though his pulse raced. "Two small prints, void detected." "Copy," Sarah replied, her voice clipped into professionalism. "Back up on the way, ETA 20 minutes. A crunch of boots startled Daniel. He turned, hand instinctively near the flare gun at his belt. Through the storm emerged a stocky man in an orange snowplow jacket, hood drawn tight. "Didn't mean to scare you," the man said, pulling his hood back. Buck Reeves revealed a bald head fringed with gray hair, a weathered face carved by years of cold, and a trimmed white beard. His brown eyes were steady, but carried a grief that time had not erased. He had once lost a son to an avalanche. "I saw your truck," Buck added, voice plain. Midwestern vowels stretched long. "Figured you might need help." Daniel studied him, then nodded. "I won't say no." Storm sniffed Buck, tail stiff but accepting. Judgment made, the dog returned his gaze to the snow. Together, Daniel and Buck rigged a makeshift frame to spread their weight. The storm screamed overhead, but beneath it, Daniel swore he heard a whisper. He pressed his ear to the snow. "Hello?" he called. A faint voice answered. "My name's Lena, my brother Jace. He's not moving." Daniel's chest tightened. "Hold on, Lena." "We're here," Buck cursed softly, rope coiling in his hands. "We need to cut them out fast, but careful, or the whole slab will come down." Daniel nodded. He cut a small triangle of snow, inch by inch, careful not to disturb the fragile crust. When the door of snow lifted, cold air rushed upward like breath from a tomb. He glimpsed two small figures below, a girl curled around a boy, sharing what little warmth they had left. Then, another sound, deeper, not a child's voice, a man's, low and broken, buried further down. Daniel froze. Buck's eyes widened. Storm growled, ears rigid. "There was a man," Lena whispered faintly from below. "He fell in first. He tried to help us, but then he stopped talking." The wind howled louder, shaking snow from the cliffs. Daniel looked at the fragile cut he'd made, at the fracture lines creeping across the slope. 2 children were within reach, but was there truly a third soul deeper still? And if they tried to dig further, would the mountain bury them all? The cut of snow gaped like a pale doorway into the mountain's ribs. Daniel Hale held it steady with one arm, breath fogging against the crust, while Storm crouched at his side, ears sharp as blades. Below, Lena's voice quavered, small but brave. Beyond her, Jace stirred faintly, his breathing shallow, and deeper still, a man's broken whisper had unsettled them all. Daniel's instincts warred inside him. Training urged him to secure the children first, but the sound of that third voice, it clung like a ghost, demanding not to be ignored. "Buck," Daniel said quietly, "we'll extract Lena and Jace first. Then we think about him." The older man nodded, his weathered face grave beneath his hood. His wide hands, knuckled and raw from years of plowing snow and fixing iron, tightened on the rope. Children come first. Always above them, orange jackets appeared through the blizzard. Squad 2 had arrived with equipment, sled, and supplies. Mia Chen, the petite paramedic with the black braid, stepped forward, her breath a calm rhythm even in the storm. 2 others followed. Rick Alvarez, a firefighter in his early 40s with shoulders broad as a door and a beard thick and dark against his olive skin. And Tanner Briggs, a younger EMT, 25 at most, red-haired, freckled, with the restless energy of someone eager to prove himself. Rick's voice rumbled low, carrying natural authority. "Show us what you've got, Hale." He was the kind of man forged in firehouses, calm in heat, but carrying the heaviness of nights when alarms rang too late. There was tiredness in his dark eyes, the look of someone who had seen families cry too often. Daniel pointed to the opening. 2 kids visible, void stable for now, but fracture lines ready to go. Keep movements gentle. Mia crouched beside the hole, her eyes soft as she called down. "Lena, honey, I'm Mia. We're coming to get you. Hold tight." A faint answer rose. "Okay," Storm whined, pressing his nose toward the opening. Daniel placed a hand on his flank, steadying him. "Easy, partner." Soon working quickly, they anchored ropes and secured pulleys to Buck's improvised frame. Rick lowered himself carefully, body wide to spread weight. He reached through, easing the blanket around Lena. His voice softened, almost paternal. "Got you, sweetheart." Just a hug from me now, minutes stretched long as ropes squeaked, breath plumed, and snow hissed with each shift. At last, Lena emerged, eyes wide, cheeks flushed blue. She was 7, small and slender, her dark hair plastered wet against her face. Despite the cold, she clung stubbornly to the blanket, her gaze darting to Storm. "That's your dog?" she whispered. Daniel smiled tightly. "That's Storm. He's your friend now." Storm lowered his head gently, ears folding back, a low whine of reassurance escaping him. Lena's small hand reached, brushed his fur, then clung tighter to the blanket. Next came Jace. He was 9, his face pale, lips tinged gray. He had the lean build of a boy who liked to run, but was now limp in Rick's arms. Mia moved instantly, pulling an oxygen mask from her kit, her hands sure and swift. "Pulse weak, shallow breaths," she murmured, professional cadence calming the storm itself. Tanner hovered, passing gear, his freckles blotched with worry. "He'll live," Mia said after a tense minute, "but he needs warmth fast." Daniel exhaled slowly. Relief bloomed, though the weight of the third voice still pressed cold on his thoughts. Then Lena tugged his sleeve. "What about the man?" she asked, eyes large, imploring. Daniel crouched. "Tell me about him." "He fell in first," she whispered. "He tried to help us. Then he stopped talking for a long time. But I heard him again before you came." Buck exchanged a glance with Daniel, sorrow etched deep. "If he's alive, he's lower. And that slab above us doesn't want to wait." Storm growled softly, body taut, gaze fixed on the dark gap beneath. His instincts screamed that someone still breathed down there. Daniel's radio crackled. Sarah's voice cut in. "Hale, status?" "2 children recovered. 1 stable, 1 critical but alive," Daniel reported. "Possible 3rd subject deeper." Static hummed. Then Sarah's voice again, low but urgent. "Avalanche sensors are red now, Daniel. If you push further, you're gambling the whole team." He looked at Lena. She clutched Storm's fur as if holding on to hope itself. Rick's deep voice rumbled. "Your call, Hale. Kids are safe. You can walk away now and no one blames you." But Daniel couldn't. That scar on his cheek, the memory of Mara, his wife lost to snow, burned sharp. He had lived with the ache of, what if I had gone further? He wouldn't let that question haunt another child's eyes. "We're going," he said firmly. Storm agrees. Storm barked once, sharp and resolute. They rigged a second rope line. Tanner's hands shook as he clipped carabiners. He was young, green, but trying hard not to show fear. Buck steadied him with a rough pat on the shoulder. "Breathe, kid." Mountain smells fear Daniel and Storm descended into the cut pocket. The snow pressing close, air tight and bitter. Storm sniffed, ears twitching, body angling toward a deeper fissure. Daniel followed, sliding on his belly. The void narrowed, then widened into a dark chamber under ice, lit only by the beam of his headlamp. There, half buried in snow, lay a man. He was in his late 40s, lean but gaunt, with a scruffy beard iced to his chin and hair dark, threaded with gray. His jacket was torn, revealing a plaid shirt stiff with frozen blood. His face was pale, lips cracked, but his chest rose faintly. His eyes fluttered open at the light, revealing green irises clouded with exhaustion. Storm pressed close, sniffing, whining low. The man rasped, voice brittle. "You found the kids?" "Yes," Daniel said firmly. "They're safe." The man exhaled raggedly, relief softening his features. "What's your name?" Daniel asked. "Callum," he whispered. Daniel studied him quickly. Callum looked like a man weathered by hard years, cheeks hollow, hands scarred, nails broken. There was a weariness beyond the cold, the look of someone who had carried guilt too long. "How'd you end up here?" Daniel pressed. Callum coughed, snow trembling with it. "I was hiking alone, heard the kids crying, tried to dig, ground gave way, been down here since." His voice cracked, both from cold and memory. "Didn't think anyone would come." Daniel's jaw tightened. "We came. And we're not leaving you behind." Above, the slope groaned. Snow shifted like a beast stirring in its sleep. Rick's voice echoed down. "Hurry, Hale! She's about to go!" Daniel worked fast. He and Storm cleared snow from Callum's body. Buck and Tanner lowered another rope, their faces ghostly shapes at the rim. Daniel strapped Callum into a harness, fingers clumsy from cold but determined. "Storm!" he ordered. The dog braced, muscles taut, helping steady the man's body as Daniel clipped the rope. "Pull!" Daniel shouted. Callum rose slowly, hauled by hands above. Snow drizzled around them as cracks raced across the slab. Storm barked furiously, urging speed. Daniel scrambled upward, Storm at his side. They had just cleared the void when the slope roared. Snow thundered, pouring down where they had been seconds earlier, swallowing the pocket in a choking collapse. The team huddled, breath ragged, but alive. Callum lay gasping, eyes wet, whispering gratitude. Lena and Jace, wrapped in blankets, clung to one another, watching with awe. Storm stood over them all, chest heaving, gaze unyielding, guardian carved from ice and loyalty. Daniel looked once more at the buried void, then at his team. Relief mingled with unease. They had saved 3 lives, but in Callum's haunted eyes, there was something more than gratitude, something unsaid, waiting to surface. The wind eased just enough for the mountain to whisper again. The storm had not ended, only caught its breath, but for the first time in hours, Daniel Hale felt he could hear the world beyond the roar. Snow hissed softly as flakes settled on the exhausted forms huddled together at the rim. Lena sat bundled in a blanket, cheeks pinking now that warmth returned. Jace lay on the sled, his chest rising with steadier rhythm under the oxygen mask. Storm sat sentinel beside them, chest broad, ears flicking at every sound, a quiet reassurance that no harm would reach the children while he breathed. And then there was Callum. He lay propped against Buck Reeves's sturdy shoulder, his gaunt frame trembling from cold and exhaustion. His green eyes darted off into the children, then away, as if wrestling something unsaid. His beard was thick with frost, his lips cracked, and his voice, when he spoke, carried a rasp that hinted at both survival and secrecy. "Thank you," Callum whispered again, voice thin but urgent. "You saved them. You saved me." Daniel nodded, though his gaze lingered on Callum's torn jacket, the patches sewn with mismatched thread, and the way his hands, scarred and calloused, never quite stilled. They clenched and unclenched, like fists that once knew violence. Rick Alvarez crouched nearby, his massive frame blocking the wind. His dark eyes studied Callum with the weariness of a firefighter who had carried too many bodies from flames. "You were hiking alone in this?" Rick asked, disbelief tucked under his steady voice. Callum's lips twitched into a faint smile. "Solitude makes sense to me. I wasn't expecting them." He gestured weakly toward Lena and Jace. Daniel caught the way his words faltered. Not, "I wasn't expecting children here," but something heavier, as if their presence had collided with an unspoken plan. Before Daniel could press further, Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. "Unit 3, avalanche risk is peaking. Evacuation recommended. How many confirmed survivors?" "3," Daniel answered, glancing at Callum. "2 minors and 1 adult male." There was a pause. Then Sarah's voice again, clipped. "Copy. Priority is extraction. Chopper en route, but weather window is narrow. You'll have to bring them to Miller's Ridge for pickup." 20 minutes, Buck grunted, hauling his pack higher. "That's a long haul in this soup." His breath fogged through his white beard. "But if we stay, we get buried." Mia Chen adjusted Jace's blanket, her dark braids stiff with ice. Her tone was brisk, practical. "We move now or not at all." Daniel rose, checking harnesses, gear, ropes. His movements were efficient, yet his mind churned. He looked at Callum again, at those restless hands. Something in the man's eyes unsettled him. Not guilt of survival, but guilt of knowledge. Storm sensed it too. The shepherd's ears pinned back, a low rumble vibrating in his chest, whenever Callum shifted. Storm wasn't hostile, but wary, as if the man carried a scent no snow could hide. "Daniel," Lena said suddenly, her small voice breaking the tension. She clutched Storm's thick fur, seeking courage. Before the snow fell, Callum said something. He told us to stay quiet, even when we were scared. He said people might be listening. Daniel's pulse tightened. He crouched, meeting Lena's wide eyes. "Listening? What do you mean?" Lena shook her head, strands of dark hair slipping across her face. "I don't know. He looked afraid, like he thought someone would hear us if we cried too loud." Buck's brows furrowed beneath his hood. Strange thing for a rescuer to say. Callum's face drained of color. "I only meant the snow carries sound," he said quickly, though his voice cracked. "Shouting can trigger collapse." That's all. Rick's dark eyes narrowed, suspicion sharpening his features. Tanner Briggs, the young EMT, shifted nervously, freckles pale against his flushed skin. "Do we believe him?" he muttered, just loud enough for Daniel to hear. Daniel said nothing, but the question gnawed at him. They set off toward Miller's Ridge, a narrow trail cut into the mountainside. The wind pressed them sideways, snow blinding. Buck took point, his wide frame plowing a path. Rick carried Jace's sled, shoulders straining but steady. Mia guided Lena, murmuring encouragement in her calm, melodic voice. Tanner hovered at the rear, anxious but trying to mask it with chatter. Daniel walked beside Callum, Storm glued to his side. The dog's body brushed against Daniel's leg with every step, as if reminding him, "I'm watching too." As they trudged, Daniel's thoughts circled the man beside him. Callum's gait was uneven, his breath harsh, yet he moved with more endurance than a half-frozen victim should. His eyes scanned the ridge, not with wonder or fear, but calculation. Halfway up the trail, the storm thinned just enough for the valley below to emerge, a blur of white forest, river frozen like glass. And there, faint in the distance, a shape, dark vehicles clustered near the tree line, wrong against the whiteness. Daniel froze. His binoculars revealed boxy vans, military gray, their engines idling despite the storm. Figures moved among them, too disciplined for lost hikers, too organized for rescue volunteers. Callum stiffened when he saw. His eyes dropped quickly, but not before Daniel noticed recognition flash there. "Who are they?" Daniel demanded, voice low. Callum swallowed, frost clinging to his beard. "You don't want to know," Storm growled, hackles rising. The sound turned every head. Buck spat into the snow. "Looks like we've got more than weather against us." Mia tightened her grip on Lena's hand. "We need to keep moving." Fast Rick's jaw set. "If those vans are what I think they are, they'll want the children." Daniel's chest clenched. He glanced at Callum, whose silence spoke louder than words. Storm pressed forward, body taut, a guardian braced for the unseen threat. The storm thickened again, veiling the valley. Papiki isisi de the valley, but the image of those vans burned in Daniel's mind, and the question roared louder than the wind. Was Callum truly a victim, or the reason danger had come to Pine Hollow's mountains in the first place? The wind screamed across Miller's ridge hut, battering its wooden walls until the whole structure groaned like a ship in heavy seas. Inside, the team huddled in the dim light of the stove that Buck Reeves had managed to coax into a reluctant glow. Heat spread slowly, thin comfort against the storm's weight. Daniel Hale stood near the frosted window, binoculars in hand. Through the white curtain of snow, he could just make out the dark hulks of gray vans parked in the valley below. Figures moved with a discipline he recognized. Spaced, silent, efficient. Not lost hikers, not rescue volunteers. His gut told him one thing: they were waiting. Storm sat pressed against his leg, the German shepherd's hackles high, amber eyes locked toward the valley even though the storm should have hidden everything. Daniel felt the dog's muscles tremble with restrained urgency. "They're not here for us," Rick Alvarez muttered, adjusting the sled straps across his broad shoulders. His beard was caked with frost, his dark eyes narrowed with suspicion. "They're here for the kids." Mia Chen straightened from Jace's side, her small hand stilling after checking his pulse. "Then we need to keep them invisible," she said, calm but sharp, her black braid stiff with ice. Tanner Briggs shifted uneasily near the window, red hair damp with melted snow. At only 25, the freckles across his nose looked younger in this light. He chewed his lip before blurting, "Why would they come all the way up here?" "In this storm?" Buck grunted, his white beard bristling as he stacked wood by the stove. "Because storms cover. They think nobody looks too close when weather does the work." Before Daniel could answer, Storm stiffened. The shepherd's head snapped to the door. A growl rumbled low and steady, vibrating through the floor. Then, 3 sharp knocks cut through the howl of wind. The team froze. Daniel motioned for silence and approached slowly. The knocks came again, precise, not frantic. Whoever stood outside wasn't lost. "Rescuers!" a man's voice called, calm and deliberate. "We followed your tracks. We have medical supplies and heated transport. Open the door. We can help the children." Mia's dark eyes flicked to Daniel, silently asking, "Do you trust them?" Rick shifted subtly, positioning himself between the door and the children. Buck's hands tightened around his wrench. Tanner's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. Daniel unlatched the door just enough to open it 2 inches. Snow rushed in, and with it, a figure. The man was tall, early 50s, his gray parka spotless despite the storm. His hair was clipped short, steel strands at the temples. His face was angular, lips thin, and his eyes, cold green-gray, never quite blinked. He smiled, but it didn't reach those eyes. "My name is Sawyer," he said evenly, voice smooth as polished stone. "You've got hypothermia inside. We can take the children somewhere safe." Storm growled louder, lips peeling back, teeth flashing in the dim light. Daniel pressed a steadying hand against the dog's shoulder, but didn't quiet him. The animal's instincts often told the truth faster than human words. "We're stable," Daniel said flatly. "Airlift's inbound." Sawyer tilted his head, as if pitying him. "Helicopters don't fly through knives. Windows close, officer, and then children freeze. I've seen it before." Daniel's stomach nodded. He turned just enough to glance at Callum. The gaunt man sat hunched by the wall, his green eyes fixed on Sawyer. His hands, scarred and restless, had gone utterly still. It was the stillness of recognition. "Callum," Daniel said, voice hard. "You know him." Callum's face drained pale. He shook his head once, too quick, too rehearsed. "Don't listen to him," he rasped, voice brittle. Sawyer's smile sharpened. "He's always been a poor liar." Lena clutched Storm's fur, her small face pale against the shepherd's flank. "Daniel," she whispered, "that's the voice Callum told us to be quiet about." The room went colder than the storm outside. Sawyer spread his hands, palms empty, his smile never fading. "I offer blankets, fuel, transport, nothing more. Or you can watch those children fade before the chopper even tries." Buck stepped forward, beard bristling, voice like gravel. "Real help wears state colors, not ghost gray." Sawyer didn't even look at him. His gaze stayed on Daniel, steady, unblinking. "The mountain doesn't care about your uniforms. It only cares who gets there first." For a long beat, Daniel said nothing. His mind raced, calculating Jace's oxygen, Lena's stamina, Mia's supplies, the Storm's chokehold. Storm pressed harder against his leg, growl steady as a drumbeat. Finally, Daniel's voice cut the silence. "Leave fuel, leave a channel, then go." Sawyer studied him with eyes that missed nothing. Slowly he reached into his pocket. Storm's growl turned feral, but Sawyer only withdrew a laminated card, printed with a triangle logo of 3 lines that met but never touched. Numbers glinted beneath. "Call me," Sawyer said softly, holding it out. "When the lips go blue again." Daniel took the card without looking at it, eyes locked on Sawyer. Then he shut the door with finality, the latch snapping into place. Silence pressed heavy inside. The storm clawed at the walls. Rick moved back to the children. Mia busied herself with Jace. Buck fed the fire. Tanner stood rigid by the window, face pale. Daniel slid the card into his pocket. Its hard edge felt like a blade against his thigh. Storm padded away suddenly, nose working, and stopped near the far wall. He sniffed, ears twitching, then pawed at the floorboards. A soft woof left his throat. Daniel crouched, pressing his gloved hand to the wood. A thin draft tickled his palm. He brushed snow dust aside and found it, a rusted iron ring embedded in the boards, a hidden passage. He wrapped his fingers around it, heart pounding. Callum's face darkened, his eyes dropping. He didn't speak, but the guilt was written across him. Daniel pulled once. The boards groaned, beginning to rise. Cold air seeped from the gap, carrying secrets buried beneath the hut. Was this a way out, or the trap Sawyer's men were waiting for? The hidden ring groaned in Daniel Hale's hand as he pulled. Boards lifted with a reluctant shriek, and a cold draft whispered up from the darkness below. The smell was old wood, damp earth, and something else, metallic, sharp, unsettling. Storm lowered his head, sniffing deeply, then let out a short bark that ricocheted around the cabin like a warning shot. His amber eyes glowed in the dim firelight, body tense, tail rigid. The team gathered close. Rick Alvarez shifted the sled with Jace further from the opening, shielding the boy with his broad frame. Mia Chen moved Lena behind her, her small body coiled with quiet protectiveness. Buck Reeves leaned on his wrench, white beard bristling, eyes narrowed with suspicion. Tanner Briggs hovered at the back, nervous energy vibrating through his freckled face. And Callum sat frozen, his gaunt frame hunched, hands trembling at his knees. His green eyes refused the dark hole, as if he already knew what lay beneath. Daniel fixed him with a hard stare. "You knew this was here," Callum swallowed, throat working. "Some of these huts, they were built with crawl spaces. Smugglers used them decades ago." His voice cracked. "Not for survival, for hiding," Storm growled again, deep and resonant, making everyone flinch. Rick's voice rumbled low. "If this is another trap, we don't open it further." Daniel's jaw clenched. He glanced at Lena, clutching Storm's fur with wide, fearful eyes. The image of Sawyer's cold smile outside lingered in his mind. Staying in the hut meant waiting for Sawyer to choose the moment. But what lay below could be worse. He forced calm into his voice. "We check it." Carefully, Buck grunted, crouching to peer down. "Looks like a shaft. Wood beams, old, but still holding," he squinted. "Can't see the bottom." "I'll go," Daniel said, slinging his rope. Storm whined softly, but pressed closer, refusing to be left behind. "Take the dog," Buck muttered. "If something's breathing down there, he'll smell it first." Daniel nodded. He lowered himself into the dark, Storm slipping down beside him with practiced grace. The air turned colder, damp clinging to his lungs. His flashlight cut through shadows, revealing narrow walls shored with timber, frost glinting along rusty nails. The passage sloped down. Daniel's boots crunched on old gravel, his breath fogging in the tight space. Storm moved ahead, ears twitching, nose sweeping the stale air. 100 feet in, the passage widened into a small chamber. Broken crates lay scattered, their boards stamped with faded markings, military surplus, decades old. A rusted lantern lay in the corner, its glass cracked, and scrawled across one wall in black paint was a crude triangle symbol, 3 lines meeting but never touching. Daniel's chest tightened. The same symbol Sawyer had printed on his laminated card. Storm barked sharply, claws scraping as he sniffed at the crates. Daniel pried one open. Inside, beneath rotting canvas, lay small boots, stuffed animals, children's coats, discarded belongings, stiff with frost and age. His stomach turned. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was storage, evidence. Storm whined, pawing at a second crate. Daniel lifted the lid. Inside lay files sealed in plastic bags, names and photographs of children. Some yellowed with time. He froze as he recognized one of the faces. A girl reported missing from a nearby town 3 winters ago. Behind him, a noise. Callum's voice, ragged, carried down the shaft. "Don't look further." Daniel spun, flashlight slicing the darkness. Callum had descended silently, his gaunt figure trembling in the light. His green eyes shone with a mix of shame and dread. "You knew," Daniel said, voice flat, echoing in the chamber. Callum's lips cracked. "I didn't build this. I stumbled into it years ago. I tried to stop them." His voice broke. "I failed," Storm growled, the sound filling the chamber, demanding truth. Daniel stepped closer, fury burning under his control. "Who is Sawyer? What is this?" Callum's shoulders sagged. "Sawyer, he runs it. He's not government, not militia. He's worse. Someone who sells what governments pretend not to see. Children vanish in storms, and people blame the mountain. But it's him. It's always been him." Daniel's hand shook around the flashlight. He forced himself to steady. His wife's face flashed in memory. Mara, smiling in sunlight before the snow took her. Grief sharpened into resolve. "And you?" Callum looked away, shame hollowing his face. "I was part of the cruise. Transport, years back. I thought I was just carrying supplies. Then I saw what was inside the crates," his voice rasped. "I left. I hid. I tried to help where I could. Lena and Jace, I tried to keep them quiet, so Sawyer's men wouldn't find them first. But he always finds out." Storm's bark cracked the chamber. Not anger, warning. Footsteps echoed faintly from the shaft above, heavy, deliberate, voices muffled through wood. Sawyer's men, Daniel's chest iced. They had minutes, maybe less. He turned to Callum. "You had your chance to run." "Not this time. You'll help me shut this down." Callum's eyes filled with something between relief and terror. He nodded once, weak but real. Storm pressed against Daniel's leg, muscles rigid, ready to strike at whatever came down the shaft. The shepherd's amber eyes burned in the flashlight's beam. Guardian, partner, anchor. Above them, the floorboards creaked. A man's voice, Sawyer's, carried faintly down, calm and cruel. "You can't hide forever, officer. The mountain has many doors. We own all of them." Daniel tightened his grip on Storm's collar. His heart hammered, but his voice was steady. "Not this one," he whispered. The sound of boots above vibrated through the old timbers. Daniel Hale froze, his hand steadying Storm's collar as the German shepherd stiffened, ears pricked toward the ceiling. Sawyer's voice drifted faintly through the floorboards, calm as ice, a mockery of civility. "You can't hide forever, officer. The mountain listens to me. It will bury you when I tell it to." Storm growled, the sound echoing in the cramped chamber. The crates of children's belongings stood around them like silent witnesses. Callum hunched against the wall, his gaunt face pale, hands twisting as if he could wring the guilt out of his skin. "They'll come through the hatch," Callum rasped. His green eyes darted to Daniel. "You have to seal it, or—" "No," Daniel cut him off, voice low but edged with steel. "We use it. We turn their trap against them. Storm pressed forward, nose twitching at the draft that carried Sawyer's words. The dog's body radiated urgency, ready to spring. Above, Buck Reeves's gravel voice shouted, "They're circling the cabin!" Windows, the thud of boots, and the scrape of the wrench followed. "Daniel!" Mia Chen's voice, sharp with urgency. "We need you up here now!" Daniel's mind raced. The children were upstairs with Mia, Rick, Buck, and Tanner. Innocent lives between Sawyer's men and the storm. His heart pounded as Mara's face flashed in memory, sunlight on her hair before the avalanche took her. He would not lose anyone else. He gripped Callum by the arm. "You say you want to make it right? Then prove it." "You know how they move." Callum's jaw trembled, but he nodded, shame bending into resolve. Daniel boosted Storm back through the hatch first. The dog scrambled onto the cabin floor above, barking ferociously. Daniel climbed after, dragging Callum with him. Cold air knifed through broken window panes as shadows loomed outside. Sawyer's men, disciplined and patient. Rick Alvarez braced his massive frame against the door, every muscle straining as someone tested it from outside. Tanner Briggs crouched near the stove, wide-eyed, but clutching a hatchet with white-knuckled grip. Buck stood by the window, wrench raised, eyes blazing with the stubborn fire of a man who had already buried too much. Mia shielded Lena with her own body, Jace strapped to the sled at her side. Sawyer's voice floated from outside, closer now, unhurried. "We only want the children. Step aside, and no one else has to suffer." Storm lunged at the door, teeth snapping, his snarls slicing through the storm's howl. Lena clung to his fur, whispering, "Good boy, don't let them take us." Daniel scanned the room, the sagging beams, the crates below, the hidden passage. Options flickered like sparks in his mind. He met Callum's eyes. "They expect us to defend this room, so we don't—" "What then?" Callum asked, voice hoarse. Daniel pointed to the hatch. "We take them through. The tunnel. Circle out beneath their feet." Buck's beard bristled. Risky as hell. That shaft could collapse. Daniel's eyes hardened. Less risk than giving Sawyer what he came for. Rick grunted agreement, his jaw set like stone. Better to move than wait to be slaughtered. Outside, the doorframe creaked as a pry bar bit into the wood. Snow whirled through the cracks, and a shadow loomed against the glass. Sawyer himself, tall and still, watching with predator patience. "Choose quickly," Sawyer called. "The storm is closing." Storm barked once, sharp as a gunshot, sealing the decision. "Move," Daniel ordered. Rick hoisted Jace, sled and all, toward the hatch. Buck pulled the boards wide, his massive hands steady despite the groan of old wood. Maya guided Lena down the rope, whispering encouragement as the girl vanished into the dark. Tanner followed, pale but determined. Callum hesitated at the edge, guilt written across his face. "If they see me," Daniel shoved him forward, "then make them chase you, not the kids." Callum disappeared into the shadows. Only Daniel, Storm, Buck, and Rick remained above. Sawyer's men struck the door again, splinters flying. Daniel's chest burned with urgency. "We'll hold them just long enough to buy the others distance." Rick's deep voice rumbled, steady despite the storm. "Then let's give them hell." Buck spat into the snow-dusted floor, wrench swinging to rest on his shoulder. "I'll die swinging if I have to." Sawyer's voice came one last time, soft, coaxing. "Open, officer." Let the mountain decide. Daniel raised his rifle. Storm crouched beside him, muscles like coiled wire. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Not today." The door shuddered. Hinges screamed. Snow and darkness pressed in. And then, with a final crash, Sawyer's men forced the threshold. The cabin door exploded inward, wood splintering like brittle bones. Snow gusted through the opening, carrying shadows in gray parkas. Sawyer entered last, tall and composed, his green-gray eyes sweeping the room as if it were already his. Storm lunged first. The German shepherd hit the threshold like lightning, teeth bared, a snarl tearing the storm apart. The first intruder stumbled back, arms slashed by K9’s honed through years of partnership. Chaos erupted. Daniel Hale fired a warning shot into the ceiling beams. The crack reverberated, startling some of the men. "Nobody touches the kids," he roared, though the children were already gone beneath the floor. His words were armor, buying time. Rick Alvarez swung his massive frame into the doorframe, grappling the second intruder. His beard bristled with frost, dark eyes blazing. Years of dragging men from burning buildings lent him a brute strength, and he hurled the attacker into the wall. Buck Reeves moved like a man half his age, wrench whistling in wide arcs. "Come on, then!" he barked, striking another across the shoulder. His grief-hardened face twisted with grim satisfaction. At last, a fight he understood. Sawyer remained still, watching, lips curved in a thin smile. "Bravery wastes time," he said calmly. Daniel's rifle tracked him. "Step closer, and you'll learn what time wastes." But Sawyer didn't flinch. He glanced at Storm, who was locked on a man's arm, dragging him to the ground. The dog's eyes burned amber fire, body coiled in perfect violence. "That animal," Sawyer murmured, "is worth more than any of you. Loyal, predictable, trainable." Daniel's chest tightened. He thought of Mara, of every moment Storm had been more than a dog. Compass, anchor, family. "He's not yours to measure." Sawyer lifted one hand, a signal. More men surged forward. Storm released his hold and sprang again, intercepting another intruder who had aimed for Daniel. The room shook with struggle, boots on timber, shouts muffled by the storm outside. Rick bellowed as he shoved two back at once. Buck's wrench cracked against a helmet, sparks flying. Sawyer stepped forward now, calm amid the chaos. He pulled a sidearm from his parka with unhurried precision, leveling it at Daniel. "Last chance, officer," Sawyer said. "Give me the children." Daniel felt the weight of every second. Beneath them, Mia, Tanner, Lana, Jace, and Callum crawled through the hidden passage, racing against collapse and cold. If Sawyer realized, he'd send men below. Storm planted himself between Sawyer and Daniel, hackles high, teeth bared. The shepherd's growl was a thunder that belonged to no Storm. Sawyer's lips curled faintly. "Move, dog." The shot rang out, but Sawyer had aimed too late. Storm leapt, body colliding with his chest. The gun fired wild, slug embedding harmlessly into the wall. Man and dog crashed to the floor. Daniel surged forward, rifle butt smashing into Sawyer's wrist. The pistol clattered across the boards. Sawyer hissed, eyes flashing with rage for the first time. They grappled, two men locked in brutal silence. Sawyer was strong, older but honed, movements efficient. Yet Daniel carried something more, the weight of every child stolen, every ghost the mountain had kept. He fought with grief turned into fury. Rick and Buck held the rest of the intruders at bay, blows echoing through the cabin. One man fled, another lay groaning on the floor. Storm clamped onto Sawyer's arm, teeth sinking deep. Sawyer shouted, trying to wrench free, but the dog was immovable. Daniel pressed the rifle to Sawyer's chest. "It ends here." For the first time, Sawyer's mask cracked. His green-gray eyes widened, then narrowed again, cold calculation returning. "You kill me," he rasped, "and others take my place." Daniel's voice was steady steel. "Not if I drag you into the light." Behind them, the shriek of rotors cut through the storm. A helicopter. Sarah Lunn's voice burst through the radio on Daniel's shoulder, relief threaded with static. "Chopper above Miller's Ridge, visual confirmed. Troopers 5 minutes out. Hold tight." Sawyer's men faltered at the sound. Discipline cracked. Two back toward the door, vanishing into the storm. Rick roared triumphantly, shoving another down. Buck planted his wrench on the chest of a gasping intruder. "Stay down, or I break more than your pride." Daniel wrenched Sawyer upright, Storm still locked to his arm. The man grimaced, blood soaking his parka. "You'll regret this," Sawyer hissed. Daniel shoved him against the wall, cuffs snapping around his wrists. "Not as much as you'll regret every name in those crates." Sawyer's face twisted, but for once he had no words. Minutes later, troopers stormed the hut, armed and ready. They took Sawyer and his remaining men into custody, hauling them into the storm. The sound of rotor blades shook the rafters as stretchers were lowered. Mia emerged from the tunnel with Lena and Jace clinging to her, Tanner pale but alive. Callum following behind with his head bowed. The children blinked at the soldiers, hope dawning on their frozen faces. Daniel dropped to one knee beside Storm, stroking his fur. The shepherd's amber eyes lifted, calm now, tongue lolling in exhaustion. Daniel's throat tightened. "You did it, partner. You kept them safe." Storm pressed his head into Daniel's chest, a silent vow renewed. Outside, Sawyer was dragged into the snow, his gray parka stark against the white. For once, the storm had chosen sides. As dawn broke weakly through the clouds, the helicopter lifted with Lena and Jace wrapped in blankets, their small hands waving faintly through the window. Buck and Rick leaned on one another, battered but unbowed. Mia checked her patience one last time, her calm eyes softening at last. Tanner sat against the stove, too drained to speak, but alive. Daniel stood in the doorway of the hut, Storm at his side, watching the sky. The mountain still loomed, vast and unforgiving, but for the first time in years, it didn't feel like an enemy. He whispered to himself, to Mara, to the storm, to anyone listening, "They're safe." And Storm barked once, clear and strong, as if to seal the promise. Sometimes miracles don't come with thunder or lightning. They arrive quietly, on four paws, in a loyal bark against the storm, in the courage of ordinary people who refuse to let darkness win. What happened on that mountain was more than rescue. It was grace, the hand of God steadying every step, reminding us that even in daily life, His love works through loyalty, compassion, and courage. And that is our call too, to see the divine in small moments, in kindness given, in storms weathered together. If you believe God still works miracles through love and courage, share this story, leave a comment of Amen, and subscribe to join a community that chooses hope over fear. May the Lord bless you, protect your families, and guide you through every storm you face.